God, Loving Life Devotional here in Romans chapter 5. We find the theme being Adam's fall being contrasted and compared with Christ's atonement for us. Now, as Jesus and Adam are compared in this chapter, the truth is we all feel the weight of Adam's fall. We feel the weight of sin in this world. But here's an interesting question. How responsible do you feel for being born into a world that has a sin nature, a fallen world? How responsible are you? How responsible do you feel for that sin nature you were born into? You probably don't feel, you feel the weight of it for sure, but do you feel overly responsible for causing it? No, you had no choice. You were born into it. Well, Paul is contrasting that here with our salvation. He's saying, well, nor are you responsible for salvation, for the work of Christ. The work of Christ is God's work. And we feel the weight of that sin for sure. We feel the weight of Adam's act. But here's the question Paul would propose is, do you feel the even greater, let's not call it the weight, let's call it helium. Just picture helium in a balloon, right? Well, we feel the weight that pulls down on this earth. You can picture that as gravity, as sin. But Paul would say, well, do you feel the grace? Do you feel the lifting power of God's grace, the energizing power of God's grace? Because Paul said it's even greater. Well, let's just read the verses here. In chapter 5 here in verse 15, Paul says there is a great difference between Adam's sin and God's gracious gift. For the sin of this one man, Adam, brought death to many, but even greater, notice those words, even greater is God's wonderful grace and the gift of forgiveness to many through this other man, Jesus Christ. Paul says that the grace of God that comes through Christ is even greater than the weight of the curse, the weight of sin that's in this world. That sin gets talked about a lot, gang. Again, I gave you that kind of that mental picture of gravity or helium. Gang, the helium's greater. It's going to lift that balloon and the grace of God in us. We have a vision statement around here of a transformed life. And the phrase we use is a transformed life has gone from being drained by this world. This world will. If you're just plugged into this world, it's going to drain you eventually. It's gone from being drained by this world to being energized by God and by living for God's purpose. Friends, if we're connecting with Jesus Christ, He does energize us. He does. He lifts us up. His forgiveness is more than just a concept. It's more than just a new attitude in the heart and mind of God. It's a strength. Grace is shockingly tangible. Grace changes you. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you feel. It changes your desires. It changes your emotions. It changes everything about your life. And Paul in this chapter says that grace is even greater than the curse. It's helium here saying is greater than that gravity. Let it lift you up. Let the grace of Jesus Christ lift you up. Let's pray it, friends. Today, God, we want to be lifted by your grace, and send us one person today to share your love with. Never forget it, my friends, that loving God is the only way to love your life.